there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder here with this week's episode of the Market Monday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. It's kind of a meme here that I'm always late on Market Monday, but instead of saying I'm late, let's just say that I'm super early for next week. I admit it's been a long time since I've done any sort of finance video on this channel, let alone a Market Monday, but if you recall, AMC Finance was one of my passions clear back when I started this channel. I think it was one of my very first videos was actually called The Rogue Market, where I picked cards that I thought were going to go up. And later down the road, it actually morphed into its own channel because I wanted to separate the content from the gameplay, to the market content. And both those channels are kind of dead. It's been my own fault because I lost the passion for Magic the Gathering, and I lost the passion especially for Magic the Gathering Finance when we went through the reprint hell era of 2022 and 2023, that there was no rhyme or reason for things going up. It was all supply, and you could never predict that with Wizards of the Coast just deciding to throw a reprint here, a secret layer there. And utility was also extremely dismal. Like, everyone had got into this mode of collectability. It's when it started with, in my opinion, Throne of Eldraine, when they had the collector's editions, and then Double Masters with the the box toppers, and all the eyes just went from utility to collectability, and it gave the wrong message to Wizards of the Coast. They doubled down on it, and then they really started doing a billion different versions of everything, thinking that the market would just really want these chase cards. That ended up not being really chase cards, and it just collapsed the market as a whole, as far as, having any sort of idea of what was going to, be a winner or a loser in the Magic the Gathering finance. So I lost kind of my passion for it. It was just really, really depressing seeing our collection here at the store. And again, I'd like to say that we're more of an investing than a speculating operation here, because we're trying to invest in having the cards here available for players to purchase to play at our store. We weren't holding these massive inventories of cards of trying to just flip. We are trying to have a really good economy here locally. And it was just super depressing for Zach and I here at Gone Rogue Games to just watch tens of thousands of dollars evaporate because of the policies and the direction that Wizards of the Coast had gone. However, we are back to exciting times here with Magic the Gathering. I've actually called this video The Return of the King, and it really is return of utility, where utility is the big mover now in the Magic the Gathering world. Sealed product has absolutely been kicked in the nuts over the past few years. Like, all of the products, almost every single product has been rejected. It has gone down less than distributor cost for most of these products, and Wizards of the Coast has just been left with kind of holding a lot of heavy bags. They've had to do things like Amazon dumps, and now they're doing things through distribution dumps. They're actually going to be doing another gimmicky release with Baldur's Gate to try to get people to get rid of some of the draft inventory that they still have from Baldur's Gate, because that was just such a dismal release. In fact, I still think that set was good. I think a lot of these sets were great. I think the Magic the Gathering design has just been knocking it out of the park. But when you train everyone, you FOMO'd everyone to death to thinking there's just going to be something better and better and better around the corner. What ends up happening is, if you try to release a normal set or an underwhelming set like Baldur's Gate, then the market completely rejects it, and all the money gets spent trying to chase $2 million One Rings and garbage like that, nonsense like that. So before we address down this rabbit hole, I do want to address our good old buddy Rudy. So I always love to respond to these type of videos. And before anyone gets me wrong here, I love Rudy. I think he is a wonderful addition to this ecosystem, to this space here. But oftentimes, Rudy makes my life absolutely miserable, and I think that he's partially to blame for the direction that Wizards of the Coast has gone with this whole FOMOing to death of the collectibles, of like the collectibles are what people should be chasing after. He really, it was during Zendikar, Battle for Zendikar, where they had it's basically what Lorcana's doing now with the Enchanteds, with being able to get the expeditions, one out of every one out of every 4 boxes. So it was like 1.5 per case, I think, is what you got. And it just led to people just buying so much. I mean, Battle for Zendikar is still, even cards that see a lot of play from Battle for Zendikar haven't been able to go. I'm talking about rares. Some of the mythics have now been able to recover, but cards that have never been reprinted in Battle for Zendikar as rares that see a decent amount of play in Commander have still not been able to go up above bulk rare prices, which is crazy. The amount of cards were open and chased after for that particular those expeditions. But then Wizards of the Coast even took it a step further with collectors boosters, with trying to train the entire market to like, okay, collector cards would be worth more. We're going to actually do some shrinkflation with doing these collector boosters and have everyone think that they're getting more value by buying these expensive collector packs to get these quote unquote chase cards that end up not being chase cards anymore. The ability to get these border lists and these alternate arts and these showcases was actually quite easy. And then when they trained everyone in the market, or everyone to purchase collectors overdraft, overset, then those actually became oversaturated because it gives that little feedback loop of, oh, we're selling so many collectors, let's actually print more collectors with the next run, and the next run, and the next run, to where collectors boosters are just completely available. They're not even collectors anymore. And what ends up happening is a bunch of them got dumped on Amazon, and here you have an ecosystem now that is completely collapsed because of this whole training everyone to thinking this is the route to go. Now, I disagree with a lot of things. You should definitely watch this video by Rudy, because he gives some analogies to Pokemon as like the right way to go. And I could not disagree more with this aspect. I do not want Magic the Gathering to become Pokemon. In fact, I think that Pokemon is the worst roller coaster of a TCG right now because of how mismanaged that they do with this whole nonsense of collectability. And they went through their own One Ring with the kind of the Paul brothers chasing after these cards out of these secrets, and all these YouTubers too popped up that, and then that's Rudy mentions here, that like 95% of players in Pokemon are collectors, not players, and how that's a good thing. And I would say absolutely not. That is horrible. And in fact, Pokemon is going through its little collapse right here, that anything not called Evolving Skies has just been beaten up. That all of these prices are well below distributor prices for what you're going to be paying per pack. Like, you can't break even if you're trying to actually just open these at distributor costs. So stores are having a hard time, unless you have a high traffic store where people don't price shop, that they don't know they can, go online and get for so much cheaper. Stores are losing so much money on these products because it isn't worth it for people to open up packs because of the no utility. There's no value. And the problem also with Pokemon is when a card ever does see play, they just make decks that are basically the carbon copy of those decks that are seeing play in their standard format, and then it just kills the value of those cards from ever being able to go up. So Pokemon is in a weird place. And like I said, I don't want it to follow I don't want Magic the Gathering to follow what Pokemon's done, because Pokemon actually has record numbers of players right now. So they're breaking records at pre-releases, they're breaking records at regionals, they're breaking records at Worlds, they're breaking records at all of these tournaments, yet the Pokemon sealed market and the Pokemon singles market is absolutely abysmal right now, that a lot of people are just starting to give up on this Pokemon craze. And the main problem that I have with Pokemon is they did take that route. They really doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on the route of being ultra collectible. So a game that I think is starting to do it right is Flesh and Blood. I'm expecting to see a lot of recovery in the Flesh and Blood market. I think we're going to see what we're seeing in Magic right now with Flesh and Blood is the utility is going to take over, and it's going to make these cards desirable and sought after to the point that then the sealed prices will make sense to actually open up. And that's really what we're seeing in Magic the Gathering right now, with the box prices being super, super low, and now the card prices being incredibly expensive for many of these cards, that we are going to see people going back and cracking booster boxes. When you can get Agatha's Soul's Cauldrons, a $45 card, and you can get draft booster boxes for $80 for distributor costs, it might be worthwhile instead of going the collector route, instead of going the chase way, is to then go back to draft boosters, and people are going to actually open up draft boosters to try to find these cards, and then you'll see the draft prices of these boxes actually start to go back up, as well as set boosters that existed during this time frame. So I'm actually a little bullish on even things like Karlov Manor, because I'm thinking that when the dust settles with the singles, when people start to actually, like, of course, right out the gates, when there is a new set release, there is a lot of pre-releases, there's a lot of cards that get injected into the system, and eventually, though, the supply is going to be outstretched by the demand for people that actually want to use the cards, and there are plenty of cards even from Karlov Manor that see a lot of play. In fact, a lot of them have gone up, like Undercity Sewers is just showing us that this is a set that is under opened based upon a land, these lands being worth $10 at this point. So again, I am just ecstatic because we're entering into a time frame where, and this is good for everyone. That's kind of been my argument. I mean, on the flip side of too, I don't want to blame like everything on like the alpha investment crowds of these people like to want to go ultra collectible and ultra investable, ultra speculative in these things. But I also want to go against the, what Alpha Investments calls the what do they call it, the play pieces, the game piece army that wants everything for free. I mean, I'm tired also of this notion that everything should be super accessible. I can't remember which pro has been just tweeting out like crazy on Twitter about how legacies should be accessible, and he even like compared it to a human right to be playing Legacy, and that Magic the Gathering is doing a disservice to humanity by weeding out like people's ability to play Legacy. And Legacy is so antiquated. It's such, it's a good old boys club at this point too, and there's not even that much demand for it to begin with. That if they did start reprinting Legacy like crazy, I don't think it would actually make people want to play Legacy. It would just crash the price of Legacy, and then people that have had all this value in it would now have no value in it. And I think that would trickle down to then people not wanting to buy other cards. So this is the time frame that we went through with 2022 and 2023 being so dismal, was the unlimited print runs of everything, the unlimited FOMOing of everything, and just it left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And that's what I keep trying to beat home on this channel and on my Gone Rogue Games channel, is that no one is immune from their collection getting destroyed and not feeling bad about it. The people that I know that actually, watch card prices the most are the players, because, they have to pick up those cards. They had to pay for those cards. And you do want to retain some sort of value when you want to switch decks to be able to like, okay, I paid, $60 for this Chalice of the Void. If I want to trade it, hopefully I can get $60 worth towards my next deck. But when it gets just completely, pummeled by this like ultra premium collectible version that they threw out that ended up not being collectible and crashes the prices, it's just a feel bad scenario for everyone. So when Wizards of the Coast made this game clear back in '93, they put their foot on the ground and said this is going to be a TCG/CCG. And they put their foot down and said the packs are going to be this price because they're going to contain this sort of value in them. And I always think that the manufacturer should respect that. And I get it. I get that people should have accessibility, but I don't think that this as a game as a whole is not, isn't accessible compared to other hobbies and other things. And the coolest thing about Magic the Gathering, why I liked it so much, is that your initial investment into the game actually retained value. There are so many other hobbies you can't say the same thing about. And so it's kind of this whole thing, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't expect prices to be insanely accessible. You can't expect, prices to go to zero and then be able to sell your collection or be able to, have any value with it. And it was funny too, because it was that same army, the same, what I guess all the game piece army that complained the most when, box prices crashed, when their local game stores were suffering, when no one was playing the game, because all that does have an effect on people's overall mentality and health of the game. And you better believe that that sort of mentality means the most when people actually do decide to show up to tournaments, so they do decide to play the game. I mean, there's nothing worse than gambling on packs and then having it worthless a couple weeks later, which was what was the problem. The whole problem with 2022 and 2023 is that it was the most feel bad purchases ever when you purchase the new collector booster and then a week later they're being blown out for half off on Amazon. So anyway, it's very going back to where I was going with this video before I got into this rambly tangent, is it is very soothing to know that we are back to utility over collectability, because collectability isn't something that is very sustainable long term, and it's a lot more risky. So what I'm seeing here in the price, the movement of cards, is absolute utility that is driving these cards. If you look at all of these cards here, it's not specialty versions of cards. It is just the cards that are starting to go up in value. You see like cards like Path of Peril, which is now starting to see there are a few decks that are running this. A lot of these black-white tokens have become popular as a way to beat out the Boros Convoke decks. And you saw Path of the Peril triple up in the last week as a result, as people needing these copies for their decks. And the same thing can be said about many of these cards. I did a whole video over at the Rogue Market about the Restless series, the Restless Anchorage. But what's really cool as people can say, well, Kevin, we're just in RCQ season. It's just people trying to pick up standard cards. This fad's going to change. That's not necessarily true. I've been watching Modern. Modern also has been having a lot of movement with cards that actually do see play in the format, as well as a lot of the cards from Commander that are going back up. And we also had a time period where Commander was something that never, ever was able to, I mean, like there'd be a brand new Commander that would come out, and then it would require so many of these cards that hadn't been reprinted, and those cards didn't seem to move like they used to. When I started the Rogue Market channel, I really focused on Commander because it was such a duh thing. A new Commander came out, it had a new mechanic, all the cards that went around that mechanic would go up. And we saw that nobody was buying singles. They were buying pre-constructed decks, they were chasing one rings, and it was just even a collapse in that market for Commander. So it's nice to see even Commander cards start to go back up. And I'm thinking, especially for Modern, if we get like an RCQ season, it'll be another, these things will be more predictable. That's what I'm trying to say. With utility is kind of a safety net with predictability. You can, and not, I'm not saying that this is just in the advantageous for speculators or the evil investors. Players can know that maybe they should get into cards right now before they go up. Like the knowledgeable will have a huge edge over the lazy. And those are the type of economies that I really, really like. That, people that want to do their due diligence don't have to pay a premium for things. They can get in early and they can actually manage their collection wisely, which was the whole point to this channel to begin with, was not to become a millionaire, but was not to be killed by Magic the Gathering. Because I started this channel during a time period of runaway prices where we had Tarmogoyf go from a $40 card, is even less than that, like a $15 card all the way up to like a $300 card. And it was just backbreaking if you had to wait for after a big result, or even it usually even be months after a result, that people would then start to be getting into cards, and everyone would be started getting it at the same time, and it was too late at that point, and you just get absolutely, my whole point to starting this channel was I was a competitive player. I needed these cards to play. And so therefore I started the channel as a way for me to exercise my own muscle here to try to figure out trends and try to know when to get in, but also to say, to make it so that Magic was something that I could actually afford to do and not get killed by, things collapsing in value or going up in value without me knowing ahead of time what was going to happen. So of course you can't ever predict reprints, but utility gives a lot more of a safety net, a lot more predictability than this nonsense of collectability where they can just out of nowhere decide to print a better version of your collectible card. What if they come out with a One Ring again with a that's the nonsense that Wizards was doing in 2022 and 2023, which I think was just so it just killed the market because everyone just lost their faith and got FOMO'd to death and wallet fatigued to death because of that nonsense. So utility is much, much, much more soothing, like I said, of an environment than the collectability. So anyway, going back to it though, Pioneer, same thing. We're seeing a lot of cards that are seeing Commander play, like Anointed Procession, as well as cards that just see play in Pioneer. We just got done with I believe a Pioneer tournament, right? And so a lot of the cards that did well have been going up with that. And it's, again, a lot of the cards that we haven't seen for quite some time with Commander. Like, this is what I love to see, where you have the weekly change of losers and winners are pretty much mirrored. Like, especially you want slightly higher on the going up than going down. And there are other websites you can actually use, like MTG Price, that can break these numbers down better, a little bit better than Goldfish. I've showed some tricks in the past. I'm gonna have to revisit that. I'm gonna have to work out my own muscle here of remembering how I used to do this in the past. But we'll be able to navigate this together as I revive at least the market side of this channel. And good news too, if you are a fan of my my brews and stuff, I do plan on bringing those back. I've been working on I was going to do a video of grinding from bronze to platinum, and so I did it, and I timed myself of how long it took, and I didn't realize it rotated the next day, and I went back down to silver or whatever. I'm like, so I spent like 2 hours grinding, and then it was all for nothing because I didn't realize that was when the season moved on. But anyway, I have been brewing in standard, and it is kind of a fun little format. There still is the problem of like the rock, paper, scissors being extreme on the ends, where you have control that's extremely powerful and aggro that's extremely powerful, and so it's really, really hard to make a deck that can actually compete against both. So you have to pick like which one you beat. But anyway, that's a video for another day. Now I'm really getting sidetracked on this market video. So anyway, that's the last thing I wanted to say too is it's not just even constructed play like standard. Like there was 2022 through 2023 was anyone even playing any 1v1 formats. It was just Commander with we call it the jokingly but not jokingly the commanderification of Magic. The focus was so much on collectability, so much on casual play, so much on Commander that the 1v1 formats just got a backseat, and I think everyone just like moved on, and we didn't see a lot of new blood. That was the problem that I spoke about when I went to some of the tournaments. Like I was still seeing the same faces that I saw 5-10 years ago, and there wasn't like new players, new blood that were entering in. But in the past like year, we're starting to see that change where people are getting excited again to play one versus one. But it's not just 1v1. We are back to things like even latest commander that actually can spike cards like Voja, which is kind of cool because things like Samurai Prowler have had a huge increase since the release of Voja. That's the only thing I can think of what could actually make this go up was Voja, because it's hasn't seen play. There's a few combo decks in Pioneer and a few combo decks in Standard that run the Cemetery Prowler, but typically those are more of the sideboard or one-ofs. So it really is, even Voja is spiking up the price of Cemetery Prowler. If you actually look, it is a 60% index here, so it's quite high on the list. And it's got low supply, and that was the things I used to look for. Is this card's never seen a reprint? It's out of a set that was crummy, and so people didn't pick up copies of it. People didn't open up the sealed. And now what we're seeing is the lack of supply out there actually leading to the price of Cemetery Prowler due to utility going up, and then Crimson Vow is looking good now. Crimson Vow at $80 a booster box is actually looking quite healthy as something to buy into just to crack for singles or have fun cracking singles. And we can get back to doing that, where it used to be fun to open up packs, not open up packs, a draft pack, and knowing you're going to lose no matter what, because collector boosters have eaten up all the money possible. So I'm hoping that Wizards of the Coast can continue to make the right decisions. They can, if they want to continue their collector booster boxes, they just need to do what they've done with Fallout and really, really tighten their belts on how much they actually are tighten their print runs, so it can actually be collectible. And again, that could cause a run up of prices on these things, but so what? So what on products? Like if people want accessibility, then they can still have that main product line, the play boosters, that they can still have their policy of print to demand. And whenever there is more demand for it, they just print it. So I'm hoping Wizards of the Coast will make these right decisions. We've seen a lot of good changes. I wish they'd get rid of their secret lair. I wish they'd get rid of the list, because I think both of those are detrimental to the game as a whole. Secret lair, if they're going to continue to do it, they should space it out. There's too many of them. Everyone's complaining they can't keep up with it. No one seems to care as much. I know that those are going to be more print to orders now rather than having over printings of them. They are tightening their belts on those as well, and their print runs on those. So have been some very, very good changes in 2024 that I think that we can actually get back to a very reasonable market. Like again, I don't want. And I never have. I've never made oodles of money. I'm not one of those people that have poured, thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, poured so much crypto money into cardboard, and I want people to have to pay premium for cards because I hold all the inventory. That's not what I'm saying. But I do want people's collections to be able to stay healthy. I do want people to be excited when they actually open up regular packs or go to a pre-release event or play in a draft. They can actually get a card that's worth value. Like all those things, I do want to go back to the kind of the good old days that made Magic really fun in that aspect to both play and collect. So anyway, that is my thoughts on what has been going on in the market. I'll try to stay up to date with these market videos. In fact, I have a goal to revive the Rogue Market channel. So be looking forward to the Rogue Roundups and the daily delves that I used to do over at that channel, as well as just some other analyses for any sort of deals that I can find from distributors or what's going on in the market. So I can't promise right now about Brews for Magic for this channel. I mean, I want to get back to it. It's been rough though in Standard and Pioneer to really brew. We still have the plague of the power creep with Wizards of the Coast, with like cards like Shieldred that just push everything out that would see play in that slot. And so it's been very, very, very tough to brew. Or maybe I've just been lazy and haven't had that energy that I used to have to really try to break metas and come up with these rogue decks. But eventually I hope to find that passion again, and I hope you'll be with me during that journey to find that. Appreciate everyone for sticking around. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.